we did first launch, I don't know if you remember the health food stores, Macro was starting out. And so it was all very new, this movement around organic and chemical free. And there was a lot of greenwashing going on in the industry. I remember people saying to me, you need to make your pack transparent so people know that organic tampons aren't brown, you know, because there was this notion of, you know, and it was just, there was such a huge amount of investment in education from the absolute beginning. So the first thing that was the most important, and my mum, I remember her at the time saying, you can't not do this, because the process was just so arduous. But to ensure we had an Australian certified organic certification process across the brand, which took months and months and months at the very end of that kind of pre-launch process. But it was really important to ensure that every step of our supply chain and the way that we packed and launched our product, even down to, I remember that first audit where we were sitting in that warehouse and I said to the woman, you know, have you ever audited a tampon, you know, company? And she said, you know, you're the first organic in Australia to have this audit. And she went through the detail of, you know, the level of stringency that was required. So even the tables that our tampons were packed on, even though the tampons were pre-wrapped, had to be wiped down with boiling water. They couldn't have any chemicals touching that table. So it's ensuring the absolute integrity of that organic certification all the way from the farm through to our bodies. And so that was really important to me. But that organic education process has been enormous because it is at a premium. An organic tampon is like 4 times the price for us to purchase from our manufacturers than a conventional tampon, and really going into detail about, you know, why that's important and what that cost is made up of was something that we did over time. But we also absorbed a lot of that margin to make it accessible. Because we're really committed
once people hear it, you can't unhear it.
You can't unhear it.
Like once you reach someone and tell them that message and the health risks with the other, it's just, you can't unhear it. You can't avoid thinking that when you go back to buy some.
And it's word of mouth was really powerful for us early on, because it is one of those discreet, you know, products that we talk about, that it's secret women's business. It's like, you know, you want your best friends to know, you want your sisters to know, you want your mums to know once you know.
Totally.
But that takes time. Also around just feeling empowered around that concept of, you know, this is the birthplace of new life, and this is the reason behind, you know, why we're regulating periods. There's some incredible insights around, you know, women living longer than men because our body's naturally detoxing every month from old blood and new blood. And there's like,
is that one of the reasons we live longer?
I'm not a doctor or a scientist,
but like
you and it's one insight that I love to hold on to, because you know, but if you think about our body, you know, naturally being wired to cycle in that way, and then of course create new life. I mean, everyone comes from there. You start to feel a shift in the way that women are perceiving these products, and then being able to have a touch point, which is a brand and a product that's accessible in Coles and Woolies, that you can then be a part of that empowerment story and shift generationally with, you know, friends, family, daughters. You can start to see where that notion of I've got my period again, you know, shifting to a more positive headspace around, you know, I'm managing my period really well, and here's all the advice that I have because I've gone on a journey. And, you know, we get the most amazing testimonials on women writing in telling us that when they shift to using Tom Organic from conventional products, whether it's just a pure, you know, choice around eliminating chemicals from the most absorbent, intimate part of our body, or if it's more mindfulness around taking ownership of a cycle, a period cycle, and getting some advice from a fertility specialist, or going to see a naturopath, because I mean, hormones are everything when it comes to periods, and we can shape those hormones and shift them depending on what our needs are and our focus is. But just that there's been an alleviation of pain, and you know, and again, not a doctor, not a scientist, and we don't know why. But it'd have to be a couple of times a month that we receive this sort of feedback, and it just is, to me, it just makes sense to eliminate as many chemicals or toxins from everywhere in your life, especially the most absorbent part of our bodies.
I want to just read out a quote that you said that I thought was really powerful and really simplifies what we can do, because it can get overwhelming. You said, I believe it's the power of small buying choices we make each week that contribute to creating positive change and impact in our world. And honestly, that made me just exhale and go, I just can do what I can do. And it's like, if I buy organic tampons that are good for my body and good for the environment, maybe that's all I'll do this week, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's enough. And in a lifetime, often that is, you know, think about 12,000 tampons over a lifetime that we use, and the cumulative impact of, you know, every single woman making that choice. You know, that's a huge amount of impact. And I mean, for me, it was just that's how I went on the journey. So I'm just sharing my acknowledgement of, you know, I was never 100% organic, and you know, I was always sort of fit and healthy and aware of my own body health, but I didn't know what organic meant when I first started, and I didn't know the relevance of having a completely clean, you know, from a chemical perspective, bathroom and pantry. And of course now we do as much of that as we absolutely can without compromise to performance and price and accessibility, because, you know, it's unrealistic to expect people to go shift too far on the journey. But that's what it comes down to. And if Tom can be a bit of a tipping point, because it is a bit scary to think about our health in that way, if Tom can be that trigger to thinking more consciously and just being aware of ingredients lists, or just aware of your shopping list when you're going through the supermarket every week, it's the small incremental choices that ultimately create that big shift. You're right. One of the biggest challenges was probably getting Tom onto the shelves of, you know, 2,000 retailers, because there couldn't be, I think, a greater example in the business journey of more odds being against me, because at that time it really was just me on my own with amazing mentors and the support of my mum. But smallest brand, biggest category, no budgets, like literally no supply. It was just banging down the doors of these grocery buyers who open up their categories once a year, every year, to delete or take on new products. So to actually get a meeting with them was enormous. It is a really challenging space to play, and it is very much about bottom line. It's all about, you know, margin. And earlier on, it was very much focused on that because organic just wasn't a thing then. And so I remember having conversations with, you know, mentors at the time, sort of saying, you know, I feel like the supermarkets need to be seen as an enabler to get to the women, to get to the people, rather than a roadblock around, you know, I don't want to create a business that is, you know, at the beck and call of other businesses, which, you know, I also respect that strategy too. So that was probably the biggest game-changing moment when I went into, you know, South Melbourne Woolies and saw Tom on the shelf for the first time, and, you know, was hanging around the category like a creep, because it's just not a category that you hang out at and watch people buy products, like the kind of, and it makes people feel incredibly uncomfortable. But that first time that I saw a pack of Tom in someone's, you know, shopping trolley or the counter, it's just, you know, that's impact. That's small incremental buying choices that you can see are really creating a shift, you know, and that's a moment of huge pride. But I think that was also, just to your question, a moment of reinforcement that, you know, against every possible piece of advice or all odds, that, you know, you actually can just do whatever you set your mind to if, you know, there's...
You really want to.
You really want to.